Welcome to Playfully Orange, our conversations about arts and culture here in Central Florida. And my guest today is Brandan Lanman. Welcome, Brandon.
Thank you, Terry.
Brandon, you have been with the Science Center for a few years now.
Yeah, going on my 17th year at the Science Center.
Oh my. How did you get into science and particularly the kind of display science that a science center has?
Yeah, I've taken a very roundabout way of getting to where I'm at in my career. I originally started in the programming side, so I was a presenter and worked to develop new content to deliver in an entertaining, energetic way out on the exhibit floor. And then my background was in astronomy and physics, so I worked with the planetarium. I worked with the observatory when I first started, and showed people how to see Saturn through a telescope or look at a series of constellations and the stories behind them, and that sort of work. And ultimately, my portfolio just continued to grow and evolve, and worked into also doing exhibit design and development. And now, as the vice president of visitor experience, I'm overall it's the facility side of the house, the exhibit side of the house, and the programmatic side of the house. So we've got a lot of great teams that are doing a lot of really amazing things. And what I get to do is just work with all those awesome folks every day and figure out what's really exciting and what are getting people really excited about STEAM and STEM, and what can we do to help facilitate that as we work through our day to day.
And for anyone that doesn't know, remind us the difference between STEAM and STEM.
Well, STEAM is ultimately including the art in the sciences, the technology, engineering, and mathematics, and they really do all blend together really pretty seamlessly, and they leverage each other. Art utilizes STEM in how it's created and maybe what the topics will be about. And STEM benefits from the aspect of design and function working seamlessly together to be both beautiful and functional and inspiring. And you use that combination, I think, to ultimately reach our goal, which is right to inspire science learning for life. People are met and are able to accomplish that through different means. So art is one of those awesome catalysts in ultimately reaching that mission.
Did you grow up in Orlando or Central Florida?
I did not. I'm not a Central Florida native. I'm not a Florida native. I actually lived in Plainfield, Indiana most of my life. If you've ever been to Indiana, the airport that you fly into in Indianapolis is in fact in Plainfield. So I grew up in an airport town and lived there until I was about 18, and then went to college pretty close by at a small liberal arts university called Butler University in Indianapolis. And then packed my bags, and my brother happened to live in Orlando at the time and said, "I got a couch for you." And I said, "I would love to see what Orlando's got to offer." And drove down July 4th weekend of 2007, and been here ever since.
As you were growing up, what did you envision your future would be?
That's a really good question. So the vision I had for my future was that I could ultimately be taking photographs and doing research of celestial objects, and really being a deep dive astronomer. And as I got to college and started to work in the field a little bit, play in the field, get educated, realizing how much schooling is required to then become a PhD in astronomy and then do some of that work, I lost interest in going that deep dive. I enjoyed learning about it. I enjoyed experiencing it. But while in college, I worked at the planetarium, and what I fell in love with was teaching people about it and kind of opening the doors to others. And that's where then my passion started to lead me. So after I got my degree, I briefly taught in schools, and then the Science Center gave me a call, and I went to the informal education side.
Is there a good science center in Indianapolis?
They don't have a science center. They do have a world-class children's museum, the Indianapolis Children's Museum, and it was probably one of the coolest places I'd ever been up until I was like 16 years old. They have some amazing exhibits, and I regularly think about the idea of the aha moment that that museum often gave me growing up. In particular, I believe they still have it. There's a giant water clock that it was probably 3 stories tall, I want to say. And I remember standing at it, watching it, and the liquid moving through it, kind of keeping time. And then at noon, the whole clock just drains and resets itself. And I don't know, I think I was like 8 or 9. And I remember being amazed at this beautiful sculpture that was doing something so simple like telling time, but you could do it in such a fantastic way. Fell in love. And yeah, at this point, I strive to continue to build and grow and be as inspiring as that was for me to others.
When you moved here from Indianapolis, what was your perspective of arts and culture?
Of arts and culture of Florida, I didn't have really a great perspective of Florida's arts and culture. For those of us that grew up in the Midwest in the 90s and early 2000s, I'll tell you what I knew about Florida. I knew Daytona Beach. I knew spring break. And ultimately, I didn't have a great understanding of what it was to live in Florida. I only knew what it was to visit Florida and stop in and then leave. So I've grown the appreciation for the arts and culture space in Florida, and the fact that there's so many really talented folks that want to drive more people to that in Florida itself. So the beaches are fine. I don't hate beaches. I'm not a beach guy myself, so I would much rather go to a museum or a garden or a science center than go to a beach. So I have fallen and really feel the passion of getting people to recognize there is more to Florida than just the beaches, and it does in fact start in some of these fantastic spaces that we have.
Well, the specks of sand are way too close in comparison to the specks of light in the sky.
Very true.
And they stick to you.
They do, and that is really the biggest issue, is they never go away. Once you've touched them, they're always there.
I see. And are there other science museums or museums you have visited that inspire you other than the Indianapolis Children's Museum with its water clock?
Absolutely. So I definitely have had the pleasure, and now maybe the pain sometimes, where all I do when I go to a museum is see things that, oh, I want to use that. I wonder how they got that inspiration. My phone is full of wayfinding signage, visuals, and things like that. And like, oh, that's a really unique solution to that problem about how they mounted it to a wall. Let me take a photo of that. And then occasionally you walk into an exhibit and that completely blows your mind. I think my favorite science center in the country is Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago. Hands down, it's got one of the most breathtaking spaces, I think, as a science center goes. My inner kid super geeked out at also the Adler Planetarium, which happens to be in Chicago, mainly because that's my personal love and passion are the planetariums, and it has 6 under one roof, so I couldn't get enough of seeing all the different science topics. And then, there are some really great smaller spaces around the country. The Thinkery in Austin, Texas, is a really elegant small children's museum that just does content extremely well. And the best thing I can do is go and find what great people have done around the country when we're doing things here, and pay homage and do right by that. And that's what I think we've been able to do with some of the most recent stuff.
So are children the prime audience of the Science Center?
I think what we've come to recognize is that children are a driver. They certainly love to come to our space. And I think one of the goals that we've been doing for, several years now is also making sure we appeal to a larger audience. And that, while I think hands-on interactives often feel like they're for children, I think if adults open up their hearts and minds a little bit, they will find that there is often lots of opportunity for them to grow and learn and be inspired in the same space. I think we let our adult minds let children get in the way of that sometimes. So I think our adult nights have been certainly a positive aspect of that. But yeah, children are certainly one of our, certainly a group of people that is easy to inspire, I think, as far as some of the ways in which we engage folks.
Well, I'm delighted that you're here, that you still know that spark as a child that brought you into this field, and that I think you still have that awe and wonder
Thank
about exploring new things in the realm,
you.
in the science realm, in the world realm,
Absolutely.
and of bringing those to our community. So thank you very much, Brandon.
It's my pleasure, and thank you for having me, Terry.
And thank you for watching this edition of Playfully Orange.